When Zona Hester lost her life, it was truly unexpected. She was young, newly married, and to make matters worse, she was with child at the time of her death. But there was nothing natural about her passing. Zona had been murdered, and she returned from the grave to see justice served. Welcome to History, Mystery, and the Unexplained, the show where we look at everything from true crime to cryptids, the paranormal, and beyond. Today, we're going to look at the strange tale of Elva Zona Hester Shue, also known as the Greenbrier Ghost. But before we get started, please like, subscribe, follow, or whatever on the platform of your choice. And be sure to leave us a review. I'd love to hear what you think. This story contains mentions of domestic violence and murder. Viewer discretion is advised. 35-year-old Erasmus Shue had just moved into town, and he drew quite a bit of attention from the ladies. He was handsome and muscular, with the strength and tone that comes with his profession, the newest blacksmith in Lewisburg, West Virginia. 23-year-old Zona Hester was the lucky woman to catch his attention. In October of 1896, the two had a whirlwind romance. It was that kind of young love that's accompanied by a naive trust. Her mother, Mary Jane Hester, urged her daughter to slow down. Something about this man just didn't sit right with her. We'll call it mother's intuition, if you will. Zona did not heed her mother's warning. The two were wed within a few weeks of meeting. In January of the following year, he stopped by his neighbors on his way home. He asked their son to run by his house and asked the wife, Miss Shue, if she needed anything from the store. The young man went to the Shue home and knocked, but there was no answer. He knocked again. Miss Shue had been under the weather lately. The young man figured maybe she was still in bed. He tried the handle and found the door was already unlocked. This wouldn't be the first time he'd let himself into the house. He regularly helped Zona with her chores, especially since she got pregnant. Erasmus had hired him so his wife wouldn't overly exert herself and harm the baby in some way. He slowly pushed the door open, calling out to Zona. But again, he heard no answer. As stepping inside, he made his way to the back bedroom. Sheepishly, he knocked on the open door. Miss Shue? His voice was barely above a whisper. He had no desire to look in upon their marital bed. But he didn't know where else she could be. Reluctantly, he peered inside. Lying on the floor, beside the bed, was the body of Zona Hester Shue. The boy froze. He stared at her for what seemed like an eternity. She did not move. His mind was racing. He couldn't decide if he should go to her or run. Was she sleeping? Was she breathing? He was paralyzed with indecision. Finally, he snapped out of it and just started running. He ran as fast as his feet could carry him. First to his own home to retrieve Erasmus, and then to the home of Dr. Knapp. By the time he and the doctor got back to the Shue home, they found that Mr. Shue was already there. Erasmus had lifted his wife's body and put it back onto the bed, and then he redressed her. She was clothed in the same elegant gown that she had been married in, a burgundy dress with a high collar. Dr. Knapp asked everyone to leave the room while he examined the body, but the widower refused. He cradled Zona's head in his hands, seemingly wrought with grief. To the doctor, all signs pointed to the young newlywed suffering from a heart attack. Despite it being customary for female relatives to prep the bodies for burial, Erasmus insisted on prepping Zona himself. He placed a pillow on one side of her head and a dress on the other. He covered her face in a veil and wrapped a bow around her neck. The very next day, January 24th, 1897, a service was held at her mother's home, and her body was lowered into the ground at what is today Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery. This is not the end of their story. A few days later, Mary Jane lay in bed, mourning her loss. She tried to sleep, but thoughts of her daughter's pale, stiff body plagued her mind. Suddenly, Zona was standing beside her bed. This apparition was no dream. It was her daughter, and she had a message about her death. Zona told her mother that she had been murdered. As she explained it, Erasmus came home from work and found that the meal his wife prepared did not include meat. Zona insisted she cooked what they had, but Erasmus was furious. He grabbed her by the throat and snapped her neck. He then simply went to the neighbors for a drink and sent the 11-year-old son to find her body. She continued to appear to her mother for the next 4 days. This drove Mary to the local prosecutor, John Preston. He listened with the fear of a skepticism, but an open mind. Between her mother's visions and the whispers of foul play among the community, it was enough for Preston to go to Dr. Knapp. The doctor admitted that he may not have been as thorough as he could have been. He had felt compassion for Erasmus and chose not to do an autopsy. On February 22nd, 1897, Zona's body was exhumed and brought to a one-room schoolhouse for a more complete examination. Dr. Knapp found that her windpipe had been crushed. The first and second vertebrae were dislocated, and there were marks on her neck indicating that she had been choked. Erasmus Shue was immediately arrested. During the trial, it came out that he had been married 2 times prior. By most accounts, his first marriage ended in divorce, but the second one ended when his wife accidentally took a brick to the head while assisting her husband. It was the only case in the history of the United States in which a ghost helped to convict a murderer. Erasmus Shue died in prison 2 years after his conviction. That's it for today, folks. Till next time, I'm Christopher Grenowitz, and thanks for listening.